Welcome back to the 7th Grade Mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about affiliate. The connections that brings people to organizations, that connects them to crimes, that connects them to larger conspiracies and larger agendas. So one in particular that comes to mind is Jack Parsons. The reason why we're starting with Jack Parsons because it's related to the space program and the occult and its connection to the space program. Jack Parsons was a talented young rocket scientist. Now, many people give Wernher von Braun credit for founding NASA.
Yeah.
But when asked, von Braun gives the credit to Jack Parsons because he said that Parsons was the true father of the American space program due to his contribution for the development of solid rocket fuel. So Parsons was self-taught. Everything that he knew was from scratch, things that he read in books. He would spend hours and hours in his room just reading books, in libraries and all that. But of course, he came from money, so it was very easy for him to access these books on science and technology. And then, he had a little bit of a push in the form of his father.
Yeah, he had to worry about paying bills so he could focus on it clearly. Do you think von Braun was just taking the light off of him because of the Operation Paperclip type connection?
No, part of this is the truth, and I'll explain why. On Halloween 1936, Jack Parsons and a group of friends performed their first motor tests near the Devil's Gate Dam in Pasadena, California. The motor exploded, but soon they came to realize that there's more to these motors and mechanics, and explosions can actually propel things. And so it was this explosion that got them the name the Suicide Squad, because they were called the Suicide Squad due to the danger and perceived craziness of their experiments.
It was success and failure, basically, even though it failed.
Especially when it came to rocket technology.
I dig it.
Rocket technology was considered to be foolish science by the mainstream scientists at the time, and science fiction in terms of any practical use and development of the technology. This Suicide Squad was the beginning of the famed JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the institution responsible for the Mars rover landing and many other advancements in rocket and robotic sciences. The non-scientific set of ideas were based on the occult, Satanism, and black magic. Parsons swore an oath of the abyss, having only the choice between madness, suicide, and that oath. He took the oath of a Magister Templii, the oath of the Antichrist before Frater 132, the unknown God. And thus, the Antichrist loosed in the world, and to this he pledged that the work of the beast 666 shall be fulfilled. But Parsons had a secret life, which apparently was totally at odds with his public one. And it came into public scrutiny in the early 1940s. Jack Parsons and his wife Helen had come into contact with the Agape Lodge of the OTO, Ordo Templi Orientis. It's an international magical fraternity that was in Los Angeles in 1939, and he joined it in 1941. It was under the leadership of Wilfred Talbot Smith, a British guy who founded this particular lodge about a decade earlier in 1930. Jack Parsons inherited a mansion and coach house from his father when his father died in the 1940s. It is located at 1013 South Orange Grove Avenue in Pasadena, California. To the shock of the neighbors, the place became a haven for bohemians and atheists, and those were the types of people that Parsons would like to rent rooms out to. The lodge headquarters was moved to this location, making use of 2 rooms in the house: the bedroom, which became a properly decorated temple, and a wood panel library dominated by an enormous portrait of Aleister Crowley, according to a story told by L. Sprague de Camp.
Look, every time you
Did you hear that name?
Yeah, de Camp.
A story told by L. Sprague de Camp in the Los Angeles Times on June 24th, 1990, page A35. He said at one point the neighbors had reported to the police that there were a ritual in which a pregnant woman jumped 9 times through a fire in the yard.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Hold it. First things first, we got to clarify. Whenever you hear Aleister Crowley, it's always some dark art shit. That name, once you start doing, I don't want to use conspiracy theory, once you start researching shit, Crowley's name will pop up from Satanism to all kinds of wizardry. So that name right there, once you hear that, you're always like, oh, this is some real deal shit.
Jay-Z had a shirt in a photograph that says, "Do as thou wilt."
Well, yeah,
that is a famous Aleister Crowley quote.
It's actually from the Satanist Bible, and it's something that like he said he would expound on. So this tells you once you hit that Crowley word, start paying attention. Put your feelers up.
Everything that we're talking about right now is going to lay the foundation for things that we go on to later on. So
you're going down the rabbit hole.
Jack Parsons became a friend with L. Ron Hubbard.
Oh my God.
Hubbard had already become acquainted with the occult when he met Parsons. He had megalomaniacal thoughts and wrote bizarre statements to himself in notebooks that would surface 4 decades later in a Los Angeles Superior Court. One of the quotes from this notebook is, "All men are your slaves," he wrote in one.
Oh my God.
He wrote in another, "You can be merciless whenever your will is crossed, and you have the right to be merciless."
This is L. Ron Hubbard wrote a book called Dianetics. It became like a Bible back in 83 through 88. Like this book was like a #1 seller for year upon year, and it was all about that kind of shit right there.
It was an excellent training manual for sociopaths in training.
Yeah, that's what it was, and everybody read the book. It changed my life, but all it was it had to be that self-affirmation bullshit that was some evil shit. And L. Ron Hubbard he was also involved with the Church of Scientology also.
It's some low key MK Ultra, okay? But yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, he was he CIA or was the other one CIA? Remember, they couldn't even get a picture of L. Ron Hubbard at one point, and they said it's because of his CIA connections. Yeah, you just dug up some shit.
Hubbard also admired Crowley, and in a 1952 lecture described Crowley as a very good friend. Parsons and Hubbard soon lived in the aging mansion on South Orange Grove Avenue in Pasadena. The estate was home to an odd mix of bohemian artists, writers, scientists, and occultists. A small dome temple supported by 6 stone columns stood in the backyard. Hubbard met his second wife, Sarah Northrup, at the mansion. Although she was Parsons' lover at the time, Hubbard was undeterred. He married Northrup, as in Northrop Grumman.
Yes.
He married Northrup before divorcing his first wife. Long before the 1960s counterculture, some residents of the estate smoked marijuana, that's cute, and embraced a philosophy of promiscuous, ritualistic sex. Now, I want to park this here for a second because there is a black magician who was a black magician during the Civil War era. And this guy used to hang out and party with Abraham Lincoln, okay?
What's his name?
Hold on a second. You've never heard of it before?
No, I haven't heard this. I'm sorry.
Listen. The crazy part about this shit is that this guy was the biggest hashish importer. He actually was the biggest hashish importer up until the 1960s.
No shit.
Meaning his record had not been broken until the 1960s. This guy was getting hashish imported from Morocco. Guess who was sending it to him? The Moors.
Who? The Moors, of course. Moors.
So this is...
He has the best shit. I can imagine Abraham Lincoln smoking it. This is the best hash in the world. Yes, it is.
But the reason why I brought him up right now, because he was a sexual magic practitioner and teacher. And he would have these big-ass parties in New Orleans. And this guy was actually black. He was mixed, but he's black. Yeah. And his mother was a servant in this rich white man's house. And he got this black servant pregnant. And then he didn't claim his son. So this black child is the illegitimate son of this white millionaire. So this kid, he was very light-skinned. So he used that to pass through places that normal black folks couldn't pass through. But I'm digressing because this black magician practiced sex magic. And sex magic was going on long before Aleister Crowley. This is 80 years before Aleister Crowley.
Well, if you want to get an example, what's that movie on Encore, the New Gods or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a black dude.
American Gods.
American Gods. You're right. Excuse me. And he's like an imitation of Mr. Limba. Mr. Limba is a voodoo / some people call him the devil, but Mr. Limba character on there, and he brings back somebody from the dead, that kind of shit. Check that shit out. But what you saying?
That was a dope ass show, by the way.
Yes.
But listen, I will come back to this black magic sex magician later on. Okay, I just want to show you that these motherfuckers did not start this shit.
No.
This sex magic goes all the way back to Tantra. It goes back to Tantra in India and in Egypt. But stay on topic because this shit can go all over the place. So we got to control this shit. So
no. The reason it's important, what you're making it clear, is that what they're doing is not some evil shit. They're using it for evil. There's a difference. When you're doing something, you can use.
Okay, magic is neutral. It's all about how you use it.
Yes, exactly. That's what we're saying. This is neutral. These motherfuckers are doing it for evil. These motherfuckers are having sex parties in California, and people just think it's a hippie culture. No, these niggas are ushering in somebody from the other side. Pay attention.
Okay, so Aleister Crowley biographers have written that Parsons and Hubbard practiced sex magic. As the biographers tell it, a robed Hubbard chanted incantations while Parsons and his wife-to-be, Cameron, engaged in sexual intercourse intended to produce a child with the superior intellect and powers. The ceremony was said to span 11 consecutive nights. Hubbard and Parsons finally had a falling out over a sailboat sales venture that ended in a court dispute between the two. In later years, Hubbard tried to distance himself from his embarrassing association with Parsons, who was the founder of a government rocket project at the California Institute of Technology that later evolved into the famed JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Parsons died in 1952 when a chemical explosion ripped through his garage. They killed him. Hubbard insisted that he had been working undercover for naval intelligence to break up black magic in America and to investigate links between occultists and prominent scientists at the Parsons mansion.
Oh, when did he say that?
Right. Because he's a snitch. He's doing that to cover his ass. Yeah. Because he ran afoul of some skull and bones motherfuckers, twisted his arms and said, "You're going to work for us." Because part of the reason why this show is called Affiliated, because this country is all about gangs. And
it's deep.
It's all about which gang you're in, who you're affiliated with, and what control they have over the different parts of our reality.
What the thing is also, when you're affiliated, you might not realize, but that's the issue.
Hubbard said that the mission was so successful that the house was destroyed and the black magic group was dispersed. But Parsons' widow, Cameron, disputed Hubbard's account in a brief interview with Los Angeles Times. She said the two men liked each other very much, and she felt ushering in a force that was going to change things. And change things they did. L. Ron Hubbard went on to create the Church of Scientology, a masterpiece of mind control. MK Ultra.
So the whole house was destroyed. That doesn't sound like a cover-up to you? That doesn't sound like we're getting rid of evidence? You know?
Of course it does.
Now, look, we're talking about affiliated, and we brought this up on past podcasts, but anybody who thinks this is a conspiracy theory, you can look it up anywhere. Like whenever you see these lists of the 10 most real conspiracies that turned out to be true, or it's always Operation Snow White. And Operation Snow White is the one where these Scientologists had infiltrated the entire country all the way up to the White House. Not the president, but was it a vice president? Or whatever, chief of staff, whatever. But long story short, so these guys are going through destroying evidence of Scientologists being arrested for pedophilia, for worship, for all kinds of crazy shit. Scientologists will get arrested in the act of doing some pedo shit, and they go to jail. Well, the sheriff is a Scientologist. He would get that person off, and then they would erase the record. And this shit was going all the way to the White House. So when you realize that this is not a theory, this is a conspiracy, leave off the word theory, and you find out the shit is real, then you realize, okay, so this affiliated shit, what we're talking about, you know, this little sheriff, this little policeman sees something and turns the other way. That's affiliated. My brother told you these people are in a gang, and a gang makes it seem like it's not powerful. No, this is not some little street thug shit. This shit goes all the way up the hill, and you see that these motherfuckers, they'll distance themselves from each other and say the other one did this, that, but they've been partying together for years. They made money together for years. They were having sex with each other's wives, and bottom line, they were doing evil-ass rituals. They'll do anything for success. So be careful who you associate with. It's not a minor thing. This is some major shit.
So America's space program owes much to Parsons' rocket design and his innovations. In 1972, the International Astronomical Union honored him by naming Parsons Crater on the dark side of the moon after co-founding JPL, which his admirers referred to as Jack Parsons Laboratory. Parsons started Aerojet Corporation, now the world's largest rocket producer and manufacturer of solid fuel boosters for space shuttles. Another enigma is Jack Parsons' contribution to the occult design of the Pentagon. Parsons, who took the oath of the Antichrist in 1949, contributed to the design of the Pentagon under subsequent CIA Director John J. McCloy.
The Pentagon is a pentagram. Goddamn. Didn't see that one coming.
Mm-hmm. Is it pointing north or is it pointing south? That's the question.
Wow. You kind of blew my mind there. That's crazy. I guess we knew, but I guess you didn't think you thought it was by mistake. You know what I'm saying? You never thought that there was a point to this shit. That this was.
Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus.
I see. I see.
Yeah, I know. Got you dumbstruck there for a second, man. It's crazy.
Caught me off guard. I get, it's like I knew, but you didn't know. You know, it's like it's actually
now you know about it, but you never dig into it. And then when you dig into it, like, hold on, who inspired that? Oh shit. Okay, that guy. The piccolo player is a motherfucker for sure.
That's why I said this affiliated thing is amazing.
Well, look at NASA after von Braun, after Jack Parsons. All of the space programs have Greek god names.
Apollo, yeah. Here's the part that's blowing my mind. So you see this shit recently. Whenever people that one nerdy dude, they ask him, "How come we haven't been back to the moon?" And he says we lost that technology. And you're like, "Yeah, right." Before I thought it was bullshit. Have we been to the moon? I don't know. I'm not expounding on that. But after you see that this whole occult side to it, how these guys were doing all this shit together, maybe they really did like not know how to get back. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they really fucked around and they're not doing that shit anymore.
Right. Yeah, that's not true. That's not true. None of that's true at all. Come on, man. Like the secret space program.
It was called the secret space program. What I'm saying is, maybe the black magic is what made the shit work, and these motherfuckers can't replicate this shit.
That is what they want you to think. They're like, listen, we need a head start, okay? So we're going to shut this down and have everybody focus on Earth Day and all that bullshit on Earth. So nobody's looking into space to pay attention. And so while they're doing that, these Nazis that left a long time ago, we're going to do some trading with them, and we'll get some technology from these Nazis that left and came back, and there you go. That's how that shit goes down.
Just for the record, you told me about that documentary. What's the one you had me watch the other day? And it was some peculiar shit in there when they were talking about these abductions.
Oh, all these Missing 411, the UFO connection. Go ahead.
Yeah. And all these guys that were missing, they all had one thing in common. One, they were naturalist survivalists. They were men, because they were, remember, 2 or 3 of them had wives, and their wives had seen UFOs in this area, like in Canada or whatever. But it was never the women; it was always the dudes, and they were all of German descent. You know, might be distant, so it makes you think that the bell might have worked. That German UFO,
the Brotherhood of the Bell.
Yeah,
that's Glock.
That shit worked. That's Glocken. And if they did, whether they went to space or they went to another dimension. Like, these motherfuckers are looking for strong-ass men who they want that DNA, because they never snatched up women, number one, which their wives may not have been of German descent. We didn't explore that part. But the one guy that got snatched up, and when they realized that he had a vasectomy, they said, we can't use you, and sent that nigga back, dropped his ass off, literally. Like, oh, man, this motherfucker wrong. So it makes you think that interdimensional travel may have happened. And we don't know what's on the other side of whatever barrier and shit. But this is the shit we're talking about. And also, like I said, sometimes we're all a cog in a machine. And so you got to be careful of what machine you're in. You know, you're looking for advancement. That's how these people get sucked up in these organizations. And that whole Dynetics thing. You know, if you pay attention to some of the things Bruce Lee said, he said similar stuff. He's like, look, I never say anything negative because my body doesn't know the difference. And so when you realize that we're not even talking about magic, we're just talking about affirmations or talking about being in charge of yourself. You must realize
it's your own personal programming.
Yes,
the cells of your body will respond to whatever you think and tell them to do.
Bruce said, if you speak negativity, your body will follow. If you say you cannot do it, you will not do it. Your body will find a way to fail. But if you're saying that I'm going to accomplish this is the same thing as Dianetics. But instead, this dude was doing fucking magic and doing evil shit, and people were like reading this book. This book changed my life. But it's the same thing. You just need to make sure you're using it for a positive, and you're taking care of your family. And I'm going to raise a good family. I'm going to take care of my kids. I'm going to reach the pinnacle of whatever. But when you sit here and say that I can't lift this, you sure can't. It's just that simple. If you say that I can't shoot straight, I can't hit that target, you will not. Your body will find a way to fail. And so it's really important that you're using this shit for positivity. If we got to fight If we got to fight our own government, you need to be like, I can do it.
Check it out. This fashion company, Balenciaga, has been in the news a lot lately.
Yep.
And they are owned by a parent company called Group Artemis. Artemis is the twin sister of Apollo. Where do we hear about Apollo in modern times? In the space program. So Artemis is the goddess, Apollo twin sister. She's the goddess of virginity, childbirth, nature, sudden death, lunar activities. Check this out. So within the past 45 days, 1.5 lunar cycles, we have heard about a Artemis rocket that was launched on November 16th of 2022. Check it out.
Yeah,
NASA. That was by NASA.
Okay, I thought, okay.
Well, that was NASA. It's named after something Greek. It's NASA.
Yeah.
So they launched a rocket on November 16th, 2022. And the mission duration was 25 days, 10 hours, and 53 minutes. Check this out. The total distance traveled was 1.3 million miles. Really? Really? So you make sure that it didn't go 1.4, it didn't go 1.2. It's going to go exactly 1.3 million miles. So interesting that this rocket traveled the number 13. Let's just stop playing. The number 13, based off of the name of a Greek goddess, okay, who presides over lunar activities. And this is a rocket that was going to the moon, okay? All right, let's stop playing, kids. Okay, and then it splashed down through a gate, through a portal, through a corridor on December 11th. 11th is numerology for a door, for an entryway. Look at it. It's 11. It's 2 pillars.
Look,
hold
it.
Sit up. Hold it. The crazy thing about this is the re-entry speed was 24,500 miles an hour. Mach 32. Not making this shit up. This is not made up. So,
look,
hold on now. Because on January 3rd, January 2nd, Damon Hamlin collapsed in the middle of an NFL football game, which appeared to be sudden death.
Oh, my God.
He died for a second. They had to revive him. Sudden death.
Twice.
Yeah. So,
crazy.
So now, people, I say to you, the piccolo player truly is a motherfucker. Because the symbolism, the pageantry, and the rituals are all around us.
I think the issue is that people are going to tell you that these things are unrelated. Okay,
but guess what, though? Synchronicity brings all this stuff together.
Look.
Because you can put your head in the sand and hide and stick your ears in your fingers, be like, la, 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 all you want to, until it comes to your face. Now, the crazy part about this is the fact that he collapsed. He collapsed on January the 2nd of 2023. Now, that's 1 plus 2 is 3. 2 plus 2 plus 3 is 7. 7 plus 3 is 1. This one singular event shut down a monolith, a $1 trillion, billion-dollar industry called the NFL. It captured everybody's attention.
But the funny thing is, when you're looking at that field, you're not looking at the sky. You're not look. It's a sleight of hand thing. When you're focusing on this, other shit's being done.
Right.
That's how they get us every single time.
So what was going on that pulled everybody's attention away while this was happening? I'll tell you what. Duct Tape calls me all the time and sends me photographs and footage of things that he sees in the sky. A lot of times it's obscured by cloud cover. Cloud cover that's created artificially through chemtrails. How do we know? Because we just sit back and we watch it for hours and hours and hours. And sky watchers see a lot of things that ground watchers do not.
Look, if you don't believe it, I sent you an article too about where this newscast, they were at the airport for something else, and they see these things on a plane, and they ask the pilot, "What is this?" And he tells them, "Cloud seeding." And this ain't some old 1952 shit. Understand what I'm saying? This is some recent shit. Where he's like, "Yeah, we're cloud seeding," and they go on to explain that that the newscast, of course, explains they've been cloud seeding since 1952. We do it for this, this, and this. And you're like, but I thought this was old technology, or I thought this. No, they're still doing it. So how do you? It makes you wonder, like, so how does this meteorologist know exactly when the rain is going to start? Is it because he has some notes? Is it because he got a report like, hey, it's going to start raining at noon at 12:53? You know, that kind of shit. Because it makes you wonder.
Because they have harnessed the things that we talked about in the show, most recently, Earth alchemy. And it's these vortexes. It's artificially created vortexes, okay? And these vortices happen naturally in the form of tornadoes, okay? But the Great Pyramid, those 3 pyramids, were created there to stabilize the wobble of the Earth.
That's some deep shit, though. Hold it. Y'all think it's a joke, but pay attention to where these other pyramids are and axes and all this other stuff. That'd be some deep...
So what it creates around the Earth is this Batman utility belt.
Balance.
So, affiliated.
Well, hold it. Let me say one more thing. Stop thinking that ancient civilizations were inferior to us. Stop thinking that our modern technology is advanced. These people in the past were more advanced than us, period. There's no way around it. When you realize how in touch they were, when you realize they lived longer than we did, when you realize that everything they needed in nature they knew about. So obviously they were more advanced. Wherever God Elohim decided to wipe the slate clean, that's up to him or her. But I'm just letting you know, stop thinking that these rural people or these people in this jungle are lower than you. That's not the case. We're not more advanced than them. They were doing this shit long before this society we have now was thought of.
At NASA, when you look at the former directors, a lot of them have German names.
Yep, I knew it. Paperclip, Operation Paperclip.
They're 33rd degree Scottish Rite Masons, and they're Mormons. And if you ever go to Salt Lake City, to Utah, and you go to the Mormon temple, and you have the tour, and you sit down and you watch this little 15-minute stage play they put on, the main character comes out, he's wearing a Masonic apron. It's right there in your face. They tell you about it all the time. You have to have the eyes to see it.
Yeah, you know what their belief is, right? That basically you have Jesus and you have Lucifer, or you have Jesus and Satan, and they're both sons of God. And basically, God asks who wants this realm, and Satan says he wants it because Satan is knowledge. Lucifer is knowledge, and so he basically explains to God this, and this, and then Christ Jesus speaks. He's like, no, he tells the truth, and when he speaks the truth, his words are so powerful that they can bend reality, and God gives him this realm. And so then these Mormons believe that if you get high enough up, and you get enlightened enough, that God will give you your own area, that you'll become Christ of another world if you follow these instructions. And it's some crazy shit. Now, did I say it was wrong or right? I don't know. But I'm saying that this is a real belief of these motherfuckers that live up in Utah someplace. This ain't this is, I shouldn't say belief. I say this is their form of knowledge, or this is their faith. So yeah, that's some crazy shit.
When you talk about Balenciaga and you learn that their parent company is the group Artemis, it starts to make sense why they're putting these pedophile images into their advertisements. Okay, one thing you got to understand by the fashion industry and like graphic design and printing in like magazines and shit, this stuff is poured over incessantly. These people are super OCD about every single detail. None of this stuff makes it all the way through on accident. Yeah, there was a photo shoot with this young black model, and He has his caution tape that says Balenciaga spelled with 2 A's.
Baal.
Baal. Ball.
That's not an accident. That didn't slip by nobody. That was on
Ball
purpose, man.
is an ancient Mesopotamian deity that people would sacrifice children to.
No,
Now,
don't forget the hashtag.
and it was a hashtag.
No. It was a hashtag. I don't want to say it wrong. There's a hashtag. When you look up that name, that was the god of child sacrifice. When Balenciaga had a hashtag next to all these different images, that was so they're not. This is on purpose. This is not. This slipped through the cracks. This is some intern. No, motherfucker. This is from the top. They're fully aware of what they're doing. And the other part that I brought up 2 podcasts ago is that one of their models is, her name is Ellie. Have you heard of Ellie?
Mm-mm.
Oh, maybe you haven't. That is our vice president's stepdaughter.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did hear about that shit, yes.
Yeah. So if you're wondering why our government hasn't looked into it, because they would look into the fact that our vice president, her daughter, works there. She's a model there. This shit's not by accident. These people, what's the word you use? Affiliated. These motherfuckers are all affiliated. They're all touching in some way, shape, or form. So it used to drive you crazy as a kid when these Christian organizations would warn you about shit, because they'd be so, leave this, don't buy this product. You're like, yeah, whatever. Now I'm an adult, like, yeah, man, you got to be careful what products you buy. Yeah, man, you got to be careful where you go. Yeah, man, you got to be careful what you watch.
The whole reason why this big push for acceptance and tolerance, it's tolerance in unparalleled ways. Because they want you to accept people who are minor attracted. Okay?
Oh.
Dude, you got to understand this. They will try and slip this shit by you, and it'll be so slick. These motherfuckers have their own variation of the LGBT flag. But it's a pastel version, pastel colors of that same flag, but with thinner lines. And they call it minor attracted. Hey, that means they like to fuck kids, man. Pay attention to this shit.
You give me a stomachache.
Here's the deal. They want to create this mind control environment where you cannot say no to anything. Period. And you have to accept everything. Even butt sex prep commercials on mainstream TV. I will say this shit again. We live in a time where on primetime television, family viewing, you will see commercials for booty hole prep medicine.
Look, the thing is, what they're doing is they're grooming, not just grooming our children. They're grooming you too. What they're doing is making you feel guilty about raising your child. So when your kid says something to you, you're like, damn, how do I answer that question? Because I don't want to be racist, sexist, and all these other ists. So you like, I know there's nothing wrong with being accepting and respecting for somebody for who they are, but something else when they're trying to push their agenda on you. And that's the whole problem. They're grooming these kids. My cousin posted some shit, and here's the problem. He posted some shit on Facebook I don't agree with, which is Facebook. But what it is that they had one of these cross-dressing motherfuckers story time. If you pay attention, I have no problem with somebody cross-dressing reading to a kid. I do have a problem with them gyrating their penis at the kid or dancing awkwardly or doing that crazy shit. They're sexualizing our children. So these guys showed up with guns to stop the shit. And of course, he's saying, why would you show up with guns? That's the whole thing. Now, my cousin might be gay. So now I feel some kind of way about having this conversation with him because he's young and from California, and Cali got the world fucked up. You understand? What goes on in Cali, again, past podcasts we had were going Hollywood. We talked about that shit. People don't get what it means, but until you get what it means. So, what he's saying is we don't need guns. Violence is bad. Don't be violent. But sexualizing our children is bad too because you're grooming them. You're preparing them. So when somebody molests them, they will not speak up because they think it's normal. They will not speak up.
Or the shame.
Shame is bad enough. But we're not just talking about shame. We're talking because shame was already there. That's how what you got to understand. You're dealing with the world of manipulators. These people are they're doing that pimp shit. We talked about that in past podcasts. A lot of the terms pimps use, as a black person, you learn these terms. But what you also learn is that they're manipulating somebody. This government is the biggest pimp there is. You always hear these people say, hey, the government's a pimp. This industry is a pimp. And what they're really saying is that you're being manipulated to where you don't have a choice, or you learn that if I got fucked, so I want to fuck somebody else, which is how this whole shit should not be. When you get fucked over, you should be like, hey, enlighten people how not to be mistreated. Instead, the way this works is that you start mistreating people. That's fucked up. Hurt people. That's not an excuse. Because you've been hurt, you're strong enough to do something about it. You need to do something about it and not manipulate our children, not make our children think that, okay, this is normal. I'm not saying people are going to have sex. That's fine. I'm saying leave my kid the fuck out of it. When they become 18, 19, 17, whatever in that age group, they start, hey, dad, what you think about this? I'm like, hey, you're going to find out. But I'm going to give you advice, and you should not be afraid to correct your child. This world is designed to make you fear being a parent, an actual parent. Now, all you are now is a motherfucking caretaker, and they're doing that shit on purpose. So when you see these actors and these rich ass people, these powerful people wearing Balenciaga shirts, some of them didn't know, but now that they know, but you got motherfuckers like T.I. I didn't do more research, nigga. You just talked about killing Charleston White for dissing your son. You ain't researched that. But you need to have research about Balenciaga. That's because you are already controlled. You are already in that motherfucker, and you don't want to speak out against your handlers because you ain't get permission, motherfucker. So you need to look for permission. Nah, nigga, I thought you was gangster. I thought you had all these guns you went to jail for, nigga. So these people are scared, and that should tell you right there that we're dealing with some evil ass shit. And stop looking. And we also talked about this on a past podcast where after people got all this goddamn stimulus money, they made these rich ass people even richer by buying Gucci and Prada and shit they normally couldn't afford. That shows that we're foolish right now. We're not even thinking that money should have been invested in some kind of market. That money should have been put into life insurance. Instead, we want to look good. That means that this reality show bullshit is working. That everybody wants to wear Gucci and Prada. Everybody wants to wear Balenciaga, not knowing what it stands for, what it means. Look, I ain't gonna front. I wanted some Gucci shit. Now I'm like, maybe I don't need that. You got to make a personal choice not to be affiliated with these motherfucking pedophile motherfuckers, because pretty soon they're gonna make it normal. And I got a problem with that shit.
One thing that we need to keep in mind is that they are creating an environment where it's safe for pedophiles. It's safe for these people to be amongst you. So what's really happening is that very wealthy people that have control over policy are slowly wrestling back portions of the law to create an environment that is hospitable to pedophiles. And you see this in California by them lowering the age of consent. And
What is it now?
The age that a child can get married in the state of California. I think the age of consent now is 13.
Oh goddamn! I know the age for marriage, like in Iowa, like don't last like 14 or 15. You could actually get married at that age, and I'm like,
but that's an old law, and it's always been like that. So, and that's based on agrarian practices, farmers and shit.
Okay. I'm not saying it's okay or not. I'm just like, okay, I get where you're coming from.
But I mean, think about it. For a pedophile, that should be their haven. The only problem is dreary ass Iowa. So there's nothing that they want that attracts them there.
I don't think that's it. I think because these motherfuckers don't want to be married. And they're not trying to marry this girl or this boy. No, they're not trying to marry them. They're just trying to have sex. That's the whole thing. People need to quit confusing a marriage for sex. Like if you marry somebody young, I don't agree with it, but obviously it can happen. So, like you said, if you wanted to marry somebody, you would go there to just drive to that state. That's what makes America so unique.
Or if you're into psychologically enslaving people and you manipulate them from a very young age when they're impressionable, then that's when you do it.
Grooming. Yeah, it's called grooming. That's what I meant. This grooming shit, it drives you crazy when you try to tell somebody that they're being groomed. People don't want to believe that they're being taken advantage of, and that's the hardest part about telling somebody about what they're going through. I'm dealing with some stuff with some women at work where I'm like, hey, one of the hardest things it is to convince a woman that she's a minority, because when you say minority, they instantly think race. I'm like, no, females are minority, not in number, dickhead. I'm talking in the fact that you don't have, you get mistreated. Look, some of the shit they do lie about when it comes to numbers. Women actually, on average, make more than men. But the fact of the matter is, how do they get those jobs? Because if you got a kid, sometimes you're taking out the workforce for a period. If you got, certain things happen that put women at a disadvantage, and people play on that shit. And so when you try to explain to this woman, like, hey, you're being, taken advantage of, they get mad at me. Like I'm offending you. How am I offending you by telling you the truth?
But here's the thing. What they've been doing is going back into these laws that protect women and change them to modify all genders. And so that this discrimination against what was women at one time is now discrimination against gay people. Or they don't even say gay people. They just say, they just use that acronym.
Alternate lifestyle.
Yeah, they just use that acronym, and they're like, okay, well, you can't discriminate. No, hold on, no. Create new laws, because by changing the verbiage and taking women out of there, then the plight of women gets obfuscated by this movement that has been hijacked by social Marxists.
I got one for you. So, Roscoe, have you heard about the IBF? Boxing at the WBO, IBF. I can't think of the other one. Please forgive me. So, the IBF is thinking about having a trans category.
Hold on. Explain to people what IBF stands for.
International Boxing Federation. And so they're thinking about. I guess the president of the organization said they're thinking about having a trans category, and everybody, all the boxing fans, all the regular men, all the regular women are like, that's a good idea. This way people who are designated this can fight themselves. Ain't none of these other people, the people that are actually the LBG, they ain't saying shit, because the whole thing was, it was violence towards women. When you have a transgender woman who used to be a man fighting a naturally biological woman, that person is at the advantage, no matter what. And so now that they said, look, we think they should have their own category. That if you want to be able to participate in the sport, you should be fighting somebody with the same gender affiliation as you. But like I said, how come these LBGT and all these others, they're not on the? Like, that's a good idea, because the thing was, women are a minority, and when a woman gets beat up, a lot of times we blame the woman. That sounds corny as hell, but pay attention to how this shit goes. There is a transgender MMA fighter, Felice Fallon, whatever. Now, of course, she lost her first 6 fights, but now she went on a tear. Like the last 3 fights, she beat the shit out of these women. She used to be a man, and she used to be a muscular man at that. So I'm like thinking to myself, how do y'all not see the problem with this? And then you got these feminists saying she was always a woman. Look, check out Joe Rogan when he's like, so when she had a baby with this other woman, she was a woman then. Yes, she was a woman then too. Like, no, she wasn't. You're arguing as if she was a woman from birth when she was a man originally. At some point in time, something changed in that person's experience.
Yes, what changed in that person's experience was the fact that there were the cultural attitudes of society were being manipulated to allow for these things to become more and more commonplace with each year that passed.
But common doesn't make right. Common makes. Look,
I know. I understand it.
Oh no, I'm not arguing with you. That was an argument statement. But what I'm saying, they also never talk about how many of these trans women commit suicide. They never talk about how many trans women transition back, and they tell you it was a mistake. And they tell you, like, especially those guys in California, when you see those guys, they're like, look, man, these doctors were so gung-ho about me doing this that I did it not realizing what it really meant. And these are grown men saying, like, yeah, I transitioned back. I don't know what that dick looked like, but goddamn.
A Navy SEAL did it. This guy, but he didn't cut off the Franken beans, though.
Yeah.
See that? That shows you how committed the motherfucker is. If they cut off the Franken beans, it's like, oh, okay, you a lifer. You going all the way. But then it's the motherfucker that still got the Franken beans, like, oh, so you a chick with the dick, but you want to keep the Franken beans just in case you change your mind. Okay.
Hey, Bruce Jenner. I'm calling him Bruce because that. So you know that motherfucker. Last time I checked, I know he's getting older now. He was a woman of the year and all that shit. But his girlfriend was sexy as hell. I'm like, well, nigga, are you a man or a woman? But he had a girlfriend. It's like the nigga thought about the shit But like,
But listen, how many times have we seen this before? Oh well, these sometimey motherfuckers are that's part of this what they do. They sometimey as fuck. Well, we like your culture and we want to use some of your culture. And guess what?
you
Now
do. I want to use your
now
advantage.
you're on a reservation. Now you're on a reservation, okay?
I want your advantages.
Yes,
I want
I
your
want all your
advantages.
advantages. Hey, guess what? I'm gonna march and I'm gonna sing with you and I'm gonna walk down the street and get busted upside the head with you. But guess what? Now I'm gonna take away the father and I'm gonna give you crack cocaine. Okay? All right, cool. So now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna fly this flag and say everybody's safe and they can be who they want to be and everything is great. Okay? All right, cool. But now all these guys can be women. Because women's rights was great. We let feminists be feminists and all that stuff and let them get their rights. But guess what? We're going to take away even more of their rights now by saying that dudes can commit to playing sports in women leagues in the same sport as women, just as long as he dresses up like a chick and slap some fake tits on his body. But don't cut your dick off because just in case you change your mind, hey, you have the option to do that. And we're going to love you either way and forgive you either way just because that's who we are, because we sometimey motherfuckers. So now, all you guys used to try to have sex with kids. Well, you can't do that no more. All right. You can't do that no more for about 500 years. You can't do it. Okay. And you're going to keep it in the background. And then all of a sudden, hey, we see all those guys that are chicks with dicks. Well, you know what? Now we're going to lower the age of consent in California and make it easier for you to have, pickings. I know, because we know it's slim pickings for you right now. Because, we got, TV shows out there that make it hard for you to catch a predator and all this bullshit. And you got all these people getting caught on TV. Hey, we'll make it easier for you. We'll lower the age of consent. So you can have sex with kids and it's not against the law, technically. Okay. And hey, that guy who took the fall for all of you guys, don't worry about him. He's dead. Wink, wink.
Here's my issue is To Catch a Predator seems like a show that should be still on. Why is that show off the air?
Right.
I'm just saying that show should have plenty of ammunition. Like Chris Hansen, do you know why you're here, right? I was making a martini. Do you know why you're here, sir?
Yeah.
Yes.
Who made the decision to cancel that show? That's what I want.
I rest my case. You knew that show should not get canceled. That show should have been on for 23 years. It should be. Hey,
but listen,
we should revive that.
Honestly, part of the problem are these sometimey motherfuckers. These sometimey motherfuckers that they cool with Native Americans and then they put them on reservations. Well, I can't do nothing about these evil ass white people. It's my, sorry, that's them, not me.
I'll give you your own land, but it was all my own land.
Yeah,
no,
and black people, guess what? We will set you free, but technically, right after the war, you are war contraband, so you're not really free until we figure out what to do with you. What do you mean until you figure out what to do with me? I'm free, bitch. I'm not going to sit around and wait for you to tell me what I can do. You know what I'm saying? If I'm an American citizen and I'm free, I can go wherever the fuck I want to.
Look,
okay.
But I'm not an American citizen. I was a citizen of Turtle Island. I was already here. Mm-hmm. Your jurisdiction doesn't extend to me. I think that some of the craziest shit that we don't realize is that the shit's in our face. They hide shit in plain sight. Like the word, like North Carolina, South Carolina. Carolina means free, beautiful woman. That's some crazy shit, right? So why would you want to call it? What kind of tall, black, beautiful women were running around over there that you had a name it Carolina? Like you literally had to name this area beautiful, free woman. You got a north one and a south one. So I wish I knew what was going on in the past to where, like, man, it must have been nothing but fine bitches there. So when these niggas got here on these boats, like, hey, man, you need to go to this area called Carolina. What's that? Niggas called Carolina. It's like, remember when coming to America where they were like, where can I find my wife? Queens. That's it. They hide shit in plain sight, and we don't know it. So these pedophiles are hiding shit in plain sight. Well, let's stop that shit. Let's bring it to the open. Let's call a spade, and make these motherfuckers uncomfortable again. Like, let them know, like, what you're doing is wrong.
But one thing that cannot be underscored or underestimated is the power of sometimey people. Because sometimey people are the ones that are flip-flopping back and forth and changing things all the time. Just like all these guys that were chicks with dicks want to go back to being dudes again. Oh, tell us what you learned and write a book and make millions off of your journey.
Oh man, that's funny as hell, dude. You wrong as fuck for that. Because that's how it is. Like, I get it. Everybody has a story. I think the thing that I thought about was Malcolm. You know, he talked about these liberals. He's like, look, them liberals don't want you in their neighborhood. You know, they'll pass laws and march with you, but as long as you don't live in their neighborhood, that kind of shit. Like, white liberals, they're the worst. That's what he was saying.
But see, there was this post online recently, and there's this Instagram account about black people outdoors, right? And one of the hashtags is outdoor Afro, and and there was a black woman on there going off talking about how Oregon talks all this shit about how it's all super liberal and progressive and shit. And then, you know, Washington is all progressive and super liberal. But if you go to eastern Washington, where it's mountainous and rural, you got these same outdoorsy white people that on paper are like, no, I'm not a racist, I'm not prejudiced, blah, blah, blah.
The second they see your ass hiking.
If they see your ass fall down and have a heart attack, they will not attempt to revive you.
They will not help you. Like, you don't belong there. But here's the crazy part. What nobody likes is that these archaeologists, the deeper they dig everywhere in America, they find more black folks. Yeah, and they tend to hide that shit for a reason. Because what we're told is that people walked over this Bering Strait, these fucking Siberian motherfuckers, but you finding out like, hey man, this femur right here belongs to a nigga, and it's deeper. What do we do? Hide it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you gotta understand that.
Yeah, it's called a Smithsonian. Smithsonian.
Smithsonian is ran by the Vatican, who keeps hiding all kinds of information. Look, the one of the deepest things I heard that it blew my mind, but it talks about the same thing we talked about earlier. Lucifer is light, he's knowledge. Christ is light, he's truth. And these people are saying that sacred geometry, Lucifer gave sacred geometry to us to make us build the pyramids and do this crazy shit and become enamored with our own abilities. God said, hey, you went too far, and he washed the earth clean. So when you find out that sometimes some of this information is not to, when Roscoe said earlier, magic is neutral, information is neutral, is what you use it for. It's not just what you use it for, it's also how you feel about yourself. A lot of times when you get these accomplishments, you believe, because believe is a bad word I don't like, believe you're God. You start to believe the lie. You start to, instead of realizing that this can be used to help everybody and make the world a better place and make us not need money or whatever this is, there's this greed thing. And now people, because they're affiliated, because they want to be affiliated with this premium brand, social media, you think of social media as a social experiment. The whole fashion industry is a social experiment to where, okay, I buy stuff from Walmart, but I can't afford to buy Gucci. And so as I aspire to buy Gucci instead of aspiring to be a better parent, so the whole thing is a hustle. And they're fucking with us, and they're making it so that this shit's commonplace, and it's not. It's not common to be a pedophile. It's not common to want to be associated with some shit just because it makes you feel better when you realize that shit is fucking up your whole community, your whole family. There's rules to this shit. Stop ignoring the rules. Stop looking for, I don't know, justification in some bullshit. But like I said, you know, there was a reason God decided to wipe the earth clean a couple times. You know, it's probably because we got too big for our britches. Whole Tower of Babel thing. That shit. It was to teach us a lesson. Now I think we're arrogant again. I think that we look to science as if that's the new religion. We look to.
But see, a lot of people will attempt to confuse you and have you thinking that the fallen angels were actually the good guys, and everybody else has it twisted, and that those who worship the fallen angels are actually the ones that benefit in life, and they belong to these secret societies. And these secret societies, well, they're just here to help you, and they're actually, you know, sacrificing for the greater good, so that they can help us to live a better life, and that mankind can like evolve. And I'm like, no, it's not. That's a mind control. That's trick. That is a mind control trick, dude.
Look, the fallen angels were the ones that left with Lucifer. They got kicked. Gnosticism
will have you thinking that our God, our true God, is a trickster God, and that the fallen angels were actually fighting a good battle against an evil god.
Look, that's because that was the original rebellion. If remember that there's a book, the Handbook for Socialists, a Jewish guy writes it. At the very beginning, he said this book is dedicated to who? Lucifer, the original rebel. Pay attention to some of these things, because some of these motherfuckers say some crazy shit, and they tell you who they are. And don't argue when somebody reveals themselves to you. Stop doing that shit. Well, the reason we're bringing this up is because Lucifer got kicked out. A third of them voluntarily went with him. I remember my pastor was talking about that shit. And it made somewhat like these fallen angels, they're not fallen. Lucifer got kicked out. He's a fallen angel. The rest of these motherfuckers left. And when they got here, they was doing all kinds of crazy shit. That's why God had to do what he did. And when you read the Bible, there's little things here and there, and you're not realizing what they're saying. Them angels was having sex with animals and people and creating all kinds of aberrations. That's some crazy shit. Whether you're talking technology or whatever you're talking, they was doing crazy shit. That's why it was important. Let's not be worshiping these motherfuckers that we're not supposed to worship. You think this goes back to the affiliation. This whole thing is you want to be affiliated with power. You want to be affiliated with this. You want to be in style. You want to have sex with pretty women. You want to have sex with
right. And so people will do anything to get access, because really affiliation comes down to access. And affiliation is really about what club can I join to get this job so I can get this kind of woman, to live in a house like this so I can have a car that's, at this level of my life, and I can be living among these peasants. Above these peasants. I can be in this social class, because really they're bringing about a neo-feudalism, a new feudalism, where this selected class will control everything, and there's a whole bunch of poor people. That's why they spent decades working to eliminate the middle class.
Look, when you hear people like Andrew Tate tell you they want you to be poor, and people
he's not wrong when he says that.
No, he is revealed. Like, if you make it up there, cool, but we're not going to make it easy. It's about birth. It's about...
Listen, his dad worked as an intelligence agent. So, of course, his dad, and he was a Mason, his dad was dropping some shit on his son, of course.
I don't know, because he said he left kind of early. Him and his mom moved back to England. But
no, I don't believe that. That's the official narrative. But his dad taught him how to play chess.
Oh, no, he looks up to his father. He made that quite clear. Like, yeah, my dad, yeah. You don't talk bad about him, none of that.
No.
It was, yeah, no, not at all. Look, here's the deal. You got a motherfucker that he made a conscious decision. He said, how do I get more likes? How do I get more views? And he said, I went out there and started telling people the truth. And he said, I was learning the truth as I went. You know what I'm saying? But it goes Kevin Samuels thing. My wife watches Kevin Samuels all the time. She's like, babe, that dude was right. I'm like, he was right about a lot of shit. It's just the fact that his delivery, but that's it. We don't like bad news anymore. And now if somebody gives you bad news, you get pissed at that person.
Right. But coming back to affiliation, these affiliations with these groups that control everything, how bad do you want to be in this club? When I was in college, and I saw these like fraternities and shit, I'm like, y'all some clowns, man. I have no interest whatsoever being a part of that shit at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care about any of this shit. Like, what is that going to get me? A good job? I can get myself a good job. You know what I'm saying?
I hate to say this. I'm not dissing nobody. It was always a maturity level thing for me, because when I was a kid, I knew somebody that was in it. I'm literally, when I'm 19 years, I'm going to do it. I'm going to pledge. I'm going to do this. Then I become 14, 15, 17. I graduate high school. I go to college. I'm like,
but see, that's one part of it, though. I'm talking about one part of it. And you're talking about another part of it. So, yes, maturity is about it. I mean, maturity is the reason why I did not do that shit. Because, like, dude, I don't need your acceptance. I don't need you to co-sign on anything that I do. I'm a born fucking rebel. Born on the first fucking day. Okay, that means that's
the affiliate part.
Yes, man, I'm a lone fucking wolf.
They're desperate. They're desperate to be. Hold it, I'm not dissing nobody, because
I am.
No, hold it. There are some people that legitimately made a decision. I'm doing this. They weren't followers. It's like, hey, I want to be part of something else. I have an idea. Whatever. I dig it. That's your thing. But there's motherfuckers out there that are still damaged from fucking grade school, and so they want to be.
They're codependent, man. It's all about codependency.
And they want to feel like I don't like the way I feel over here, so I'm going. And look, I keep warning people that feeling belongs to you, but it's not real. Feeling may not be real. When I say that, I'm not.
But here's the thing, though, man. But see, like, also those people are going to those groups because they need guidance, and I didn't need guidance out here in the world at 18. I got it from
my parents.
I got it from my parents. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, the thing is like once I got guidance from my parents, I didn't need to be affiliated. I was affiliated with thugs when I was young. No. I was affiliated with fucking killers. You know what I'm saying? But because I was learning my way in the world, you know what I'm saying? Those are people that I knew. And I knew that certain activities with those people was a bridge too far. So I didn't engage fully with these people. Like, I knew these people on the periphery. You know what I'm saying? And, like, once shit got to, like, a certain point, it's like, oh, I don't need to be a part of this because, in the end, this ain't going to benefit me. This going to benefit you because you manipulating all these other people. That's why gangs are only for little boys.
Look, you're supposed to start as a kid. We talked about that. That was part of our conversation off the air. It was like, if you 12, 13, 14, and you get in a gang, that's how it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to be 27. I'm doing the Crips and Bloods. You're an idiot. But at the same time, some of my best homies, Crips and Bloods, like real gang members. Like, here's a situation. So, you know this. I hung out with two Crips from LA. One's Phi Tre Avalon. One was in a different clique. And so we was tight. So I get a roommate and a couple of my Bloods, right? So that's cool. I'm in college. His name was Stephen. Stephen was cool. Stephen had a boy from Pacoima named Green Eyes. So my homeboy Pete comes to the room, and Green Eyes comes in there, and he looks at me. I'm like, what's up, man? And so he's like, hey, let me holler at you. So we leave the room. He's like, who the fuck is that? I'm like, that's little Green Eyes. He said, I know who that is. He said, he's telling me I killed one of his people. Like, he don't know what I did. So that's...
Okay, so don't fucking say nothing. So just fucking sit down and fucking break bread, and it turns out y'all motherfuckers are cool, then hey.
No. Pete left. He's like, no, he doesn't know. Little Green Eyes don't know I killed one of it. He said, but so that's when you're affiliated, that's what you gotta be careful, because what you're affiliated with might be much deeper than you understand.
Could spell your demise.
Dude, we're getting real. So when my wife first moved down here, we weren't married yet, of course. And my stepson is in the back seat throwing up gang signs, and I go off on him. She's like, I'm like, stop that shit. You don't know what that is. I get it. Y'all gangs are different in New Orleans. We're in Omaha. Gang signs are a real thing to certain people. It don't matter if it's a kid. If they see that shit, they start shooting.
You get smoked.
I got to shoot a real bullet back at them. So we don't do that shit. If you living with me, you don't do that shit. I don't give a fuck. And so, again, we had to argue about the shit. Like, he's playing. That's not a game. Would you give your son a real gun to play with? No. Well, you're doing that. So cut that shit the fuck out. And those are conversations that you got to have. This affiliated shit is not what you think. Because it's cute when you're getting recognition. It ain't cute when the piper comes to get his payment, motherfucker. So be careful about that shit. Stop trying to be affiliated. Stop trying to wear Gucci and Prada, not realizing that, like, everybody's talking shit now.
Yo, here's the thing. When you wearing these certain clothes, you affiliated with darkness. And that's what this show is really about. The affiliation with darkness. That's all I got. We out. Peace.
Holla back.